sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. Let me crank you up here a little bit. I am Pastor Joe Fox on this lovely morning, and it's a lot brighter in the camera than it is out here. I want to talk today about how far out is far enough to coo hemp, come out of her, my people. And on a related note, how far should one plan one's BOL, bug out location, and things in that genre, in that subject line. But first, disaster coffee. French press. All right. I have a rule of thumb, but I'm going to give that towards the end. Hopefully I'll remember. I get the question a lot from people, how far out should I coo hemp? How far out is enough to come out of her, my people? And interestingly enough, yesterday's sermon, which should be available on the YouTube channel Shofar Mountain anytime now, was about this. Come out of her, my people. And a fascinating thing for those of you of a mind. Do you know who Charles Spurgeon is? Fascinating guy. He has a book that he did. I think he did it. I own it. I just don't have it here. That has daily readings for the year, morning and evening. And I'm getting goosebumps already. Yesterday's, and I haven't read it, like I said, for a couple years. I got it. I did it every day for a year, and then I just didn't go back and do it again. It's worth it if you want to buy the book. But yesterday morning's daily reading, which someone pointed out to us at the service, and I don't think this part's on the camera, lined up exactly with coo hemp, which is what I was talking about yesterday. So if you're of a mind, go watch the Shofar Mountain video. I watched, I don't know if the video was called Lockstep or something about how supposedly what's going on now vis-a-vis the lockdowns and the quarantines and the masks and the rise of the totalitarian state was all planned. Rockefeller's man. Somebody sent me a video. I watched it early this morning. I don't know. You could probably Google Lockstep or something. But they were talking about things, and then I was reading other things, and you know that it's terrible to be in the cities, right? It's going to get worse. It really is, and boom, 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 boom. So there's that. A lot of people, probably most of y'all, live in the suburbs, right? What could be called the suburbs. And you think you're safe because you're around, people of your own socioeconomic status, and, the kids go to soccer and dun-dun. Actually, I have no idea what kids do anymore. It's summertime, right? My, how things change when you retire. But you don't think it's coming to you. It is. It's coming to you. And you need to come out of her, my people. And so people always ask, and really if you're interested at all, because this is a biblical concept, and so you should probably go read it in the Bible. Like I said, my sermon yesterday covers it. It should be posted probably before this gets posted. Our technical team is doing that. But you need to get out of those cities and those built up areas. And I'm going to focus on that today, not the psychological, spiritual aspects, which I talked about in the sermon. And I'll stop talking about that right now. Let's just talk about getting out and away from the chaos. That is not coming. In many cases, it's here. How far out do you have to be? I'd say an hour commute each way to your job in the city or suburbs is a small price to pay. It's a huge price. No, it's a small price. I don't know what your commute is like. When I was in the greater DC metropolitan area a few times, many people were commuting 45 minutes to an hour each way. They weren't going far, but that's what the commute was. Just terrible. At one time, that was my commute, about that long, and then I worked for an enlightened organization, and I went in very early, and I came out in between. They've got it all mapped out when the peaks of different rush hours are. And so my commute was actually 15 minutes, which was pretty sweet. But that's just because, when you go in at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's not a lot of traffic. Coming home was worse. But I'd say an hour. And to those of you who have never been in that situation where people commute like that, you think that's outrageous. That's just outrageous commute, an hour. There were people, and this was in the late 90s, the last time I was there, late 90s. There were people who were commuting from West Virginia to the DC area, and from the Shenandoah Valley, which is 3 hours away from DC, was then. And what many of them, it's not like I surveyed them, what many of them did is they rented an apartment close in, and they would go to work they would live in, let's say, Shenandoah Valley. They would come to work on Monday morning. They'd get up early and come into work. And then they would stay at their apartment Monday through Thursday night. And then Friday night, they'd skedaddle and they'd go home. Hell of a way to live, if you ask me. But a lot of people did that. And they would share an apartment, with other people from work or something like that. Get a 3-bedroom apartment, 3 dudes live in it, that kind of thing. But I think what you should do when I say come out of her, my people, is change your job. Don't work in the suburbs or the city. I know that's where the good paying jobs are, but you need a lot of that money just to work that job. They go kind of hand in hand. They pay you a lot for a reason. You need to look at making the change financially or educationally or vocationally. You need to get a different job. You need to come up with a different way to support yourself and your family. And then you need to move out into the rural areas. You need to be rural. That's the bottom line. You need to get into the rural areas. How rural is rural enough? I think I mentioned this in the sermon yesterday, and I think it was one of y'all who asked me, is this place good enough? And it was somewhere on the East Coast, and I almost answered, you're on the wrong side of the Mississippi. Hey, do the best you can with what you got where you're at. Why do you say that, Pastor Joe? I live in Southern Virginia in the Appalachians, and it's rednecky here, or rural, or, whatever. Yeah, and it's in the East Coast where there's a bazillion people. Just a bazillion people. And with that many people comes problems. You need to get rural. You don't have to. You're not gonna do what I tell you to do anyway. You're just going to do what you want to do. So I'm just giving you my thought process. You need to be rural. Because with people, not only comes all the goodness, and I'll just cut to the chase because it's bugging me and it's hurting because I really didn't want to forget it. Here's the rule of thumb. If you can have a pizza delivered to your home, you're not rural enough. If you can have a pizza delivered to your home, you're not rural enough. That's a good rule of thumb right there. Says Pastor Joe. You should consider a line of employment that involves the internet, where you do your work via the internet. And when the internet crashes, it won't matter because no one's going to have a job. Does that make sense? It'll be a leveler, right? Another concept is to become a traveling worker, a consultant, a expert, a whatever, where you basically travel during the week and you go do a job and then you come back on the weekends. That's a concept. It's not a great long-term survival concept because if you're gone from home more than you're home, you're usually gone to a built-up area, and when something happens, you'll probably be there. But it can get your feet set into a rural setting and continue to provide income while you fix up your place, and then you can cut the cord, cut the string on that one. That's what I did. I became a contractor, consultant, and I would go places and do things and get paid a whole lot of money, and then I put it into gravel and bulldozers. Here, that's what I did. So that's a concept. And I know some of y'all travel for work. Like I said, I don't think it's a long-term solution, but it's a possible thing. Other things you can do on the internet, right? Be an author. I tell everybody should at least try to become a vlogger. If you are doing any kind of homesteady thing, you should try to be a vlogger, because right now it's very popular and people want to watch that stuff. And so if you can move to your little slice of heaven and start producing content, and actually I would suggest that you start where you are in the suburbs and talk about the excitement of moving from the suburbs to the country, to the rural area. Talk about why you're doing it. Talk about that. Let people watch that and then go. And then let them watch you building and doing and stuff. People love that. And then you can turn that into, no, it's not going to replace your job at the bank, money-wise. But it'll be a stream of income that you can buy milk and eggs with until you start producing your own milk and eggs, right? You need to live in a place where you can do homesteading. In other words, you can have critters on your land. You can have goats, or you can have cattle if you want to have cattle, or you can have sheep, or you can definitely have chickens and roosters, and where there aren't all the regulations which come with people. When there's a lot of people, they all get together and say, we need to make a law. I don't like the way those goats smell. I don't like hearing roosters in the morning. We should pass a law. And they do. And then you can't live there anymore. So you need to get outside of that. So you need to go to the rural areas. I keep coming back to the sermon because, see, coup hemp, come out of her, my people, is not just a physical thing. A lot of y'all just want the physical answer. How far do I have to go? Man, it's a psychological and a spiritual thing, too. You've got to give up your desire for all the shiny things of Babylon, as I said in the sermon, for all that stuff that just doesn't matter. And it's going to matter even less when this thing goes. None of that will matter. Nobody will care at that point that you've got a really nice Beamer, man. They'll appreciate the old beat-up pickup truck you have from 1970 that still runs. That'll be cool, right? I should show you these pants I have on. All right, I will. You ready? Can you see those? Here, let me tip it this way. Can you see my knees? Do you think anybody out here cares that PJ's wearing dirty jeans with holes in them that I sewed up the other day so mulch wouldn't go down in them? Nobody cares, man. I can literally go to the grocery store like that here. Oh, you're out there with all those dirty country people. No, I'm out here with real people who understand what real work is, and they understand what's important and what's not. People in the rural areas get excited about different things. Now, sure, it's America, man, for most of you. There's still the people out here who spend, $70,000 on their pickup truck and accessories. And, they live in a bad single-wide trailer with a tarp over it. Priorities, right? See, even my goat laughed at that. But most people out in the rural areas are just country folk, man. They're just trying to make a living. They're trying to get by, and they are self-sufficient, self-reliant. They rely on themselves. And to that degree, they help each other differently than people in the suburbs do. Around here, and I've lived in rural areas in Washington State, and I've visited extensively rural areas in Virginia and Kansas. So that's kind of all across the country. Different people, right? Definitely different people. But rural people, while they are self-reliant and self-sufficient, and they try to solve their own problems, when they need help and they ask for it, people give it. It's kind of like if you ask your neighbor, hey, I am getting ready to string my fence and I just need another set of hands. Would you have some time this week to help me do that? They're gonna say yes. Whereas your suburban neighbor, first of all, they'd be shocked you were even asking them to do that. In many cases, in my experience, you may find something differently. But how far out should you go? Out to where it's rural. Out to where you can't order a pizza. Out to where you can have chickens and roosters and smelly animals if you want, or if they want. See, don't move out there and then start telling people that they need to change things. You need to pave this road. They built chicken houses about a little over a quarter mile that way recently. Those of you who've been here for a long time know it. There's chicken houses all over this part of the country. Sometimes they stink and we smell them, and my wife was not happy. If you didn't want them to build chicken houses on that land, you should have bought that land. That's how I look at it. I couldn't afford that land. It was too expensive. I remember when it went up for sale, I told my rich friends about it. I wanted them to buy it. Buy it, put a house on it. You have great neighbors. Hey man, you got to take the ups with the downs. The smell of chickens is a small thing compared to the security. And I don't smell it now. You don't smell it all the time. It's just when the wind goes. And it's something. You get used to it. So in a way, what I'm telling you is you can't have it all. You have to move out far enough that really it requires a lifestyle change for you. If you live in suburbia or the city, God forbid. It's not just a matter of getting a new house and moving. It's really not. That's actually the easy part. The hard part for most of you is going to be changing your mindset, changing your expectations of life, what you want, what you'll put up with. No, you're not going to be, if you come out of Her My People far enough, you're certainly not going to be able to order Ethiopian food delivered to your door. And quite frankly, if you want to get any real food, if you're worldly at all, if you've traveled at all, because I love food, And I like food from all different cultures and places. And, you know, when you're living in the DC area, you can get it. When you're living in big chunks of California, you can get it. Out here in the Ozarks, you're going to drive a long way. There's an Indian restaurant we go to around here. It's an hour drive to get to the restaurant. And we go sometimes. We haven't been since this COVID thing started, but we drive to it. It's great food. It's fresh. It's vegetarian. You don't even think about it when you're eating it. It's so delicious. In Northern Virginia, you could find a restaurant like that dime a dozen, man. Just zip out. Now, in many cases, it would still take you almost an hour to get there and get back because of traffic. See, there's that. Here, we're actually driving 60 miles an hour for an hour. You know? So, yeah, there's that too. It's a mindset, people. There are bad times coming. Bad. Boo. And you're behind the power curve if you're still in suburbia or the cities. You're gonna long, you're gonna wish, you're gonna regret, and I'm not trying to curse you with my words. If you don't take action now, you won't be able to. It'll be too late. You won't be able to get out. And then I'll be right again, and you'll be like, I wish I'd listened to Pastor Joe. I do get a fair amount of emails of people who say, thank you so much, PJ. And again, this isn't slap myself on the back. I'm trying to add weight to my argument. Who say, thank you so much, because of you, we came out of her. We moved to a rural area, and we're stoked. We like it. We're happy. It's working out. Yada, yada, yada. If any of you are like that, go ahead and put your comments in there. Not whether I told you to or not. I mean, just if you moved from the suburban or the city, you know, urban areas to the country, go ahead and talk about that. Because, see, I think some of us need more of a push. And that's my job, right? To motivate you. You're going to wish you had. And I'd rather you sit back and turn on your phone, look at the chaos of the cities burning, and go, I'm glad we're out here. How many eggs we get? We got 8 eggs yesterday. Awesome. Let's make some omelets. You want good food? There's another thing. You're not going to go out and get it. You're going to have to make it. But guess what? You can. My wife makes awesome food. Matter of fact, the only reason, and again, we haven't been to a restaurant since April, late April. The only reason we go to a restaurant is just to give her a break from cooking and cleaning. And again, we haul our water. She heats it up on a stove to wash dishes. Okay, we don't have running water yet, so it's hard for her, even though she doesn't complain or, you know, whatever. But to give her a break, we go out to eat. The food's not as good as her food. Never. It's never as good. It's not as relaxing eating somewhere else. You have to be on your security mind. You got to be paying attention to everything going on around you. That's another class for another time. So you can't just chill. That's the only reason we go out. So yeah, if you're going to come out of her, my people, be self-sufficient, be self-reliant, and you like food, learn how to cook. And you know, we're going long, it's never been easier to do this and still hang on to some of the things, because Amazon, you can order anything and they'll deliver it. And like here, we don't have a mailbox. We don't get mail delivery. We have P.O. boxes in a couple different places. And that's where we get our stuff delivered. And we have friends who will take delivery of like freight and stuff like that for us, you know, big heavy things. You can order anything. You don't go shopping. Why would you want to anyway? Why would you want to go? I remember the days when we would spend all weekend going to the mall. Ugh. The thought of that now is just gross to me. I mean, that's like no fun.